The massive crystal halls of the Galactic Council echoed with the sound of clicking claws, rustling wings, and the whispered conversations of 100 different species. Representatives from across the galaxy had gathered for what many considered the most shameful display in recent memory. In the center of the Great Chamber, a single figure knelt in chains that hummed with energy fields designed to suppress any attempt at escape. Zara, 7, kept her head high despite the weight of the neural dampeners around her neck. Her skin showed the telltale signs of her mixed heritage, patches of the crystalline formations that marked her as part Zarathi, while other areas displayed the soft blue-gray flesh of her Korean mother's people. It was this combination that had made her an outcast from birth, and now it would seal her fate. The accused stands before this council charged with crimes against galactic peace, announced Counselor Vex, his serpentine form coiled around the speaking platform. Zura, 7, designated genetic anomaly of the Outer Rim territories. You have been found guilty of unauthorized military action, destruction of council property, and the murder of 3 council enforcement officers. A ripple of disgust passed through the assembled representatives. Several of the more traditional species made gestures that Zara recognized as signs meant to ward off contamination. She had seen those gestures her entire life. The defendant was discovered operating a stolen warship in the prohibited zones of the Andromeda Spiral, Vex continued. When confronted by our peacekeeping forces, she opened fire without provocation, resulting in the destruction of 2 patrol vessels and the deaths of innocent officers simply doing their duty. Zara's jaw tightened. Innocent officers. They had been hunting her for 3 cycles, ever since she had escaped from the genetic research facility on Proxima 9, the same facility where they had performed experiments on her and dozens of other mixed heritage individuals, trying to understand how their genetic combinations affected their abilities. The same facility where she had watched her younger brother die on an examination table while scientists took notes. Does the accused have anything to say before sentencing? Vex's question dripped with formality. Everyone in the chamber knew this was merely procedure. Zara stood slowly, her chains singing with energy. I have never attacked anyone who did not attack me first. Your peacekeeping forces were not peacekeepers. They were hunters sent to drag me back to a laboratory where I would be dissected like an animal. Everything I did was in self-defense. Self-defense. Counselor Thrain stepped forward, her insectoid features clicking in what passed for laughter among her people. You are a genetic mistake, an abomination created by species that should never have bred together. Your very existence is a violation of natural order. The research being conducted was for the betterment of all galactic civilization. The betterment of civilization does not require the torture and murder of children, Zara replied, her voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. Murmurs of disapproval rose from the assembled representatives. Several called for immediate execution, while others demanded she be returned to the research facilities for further study. None spoke in her defense. Silence. Vex's voice boomed across the chamber. The sentence has been decided. Zara, 7, you are hereby banished from all civilized space. You will be transported to the edge of the galaxy and released. Any attempt to return will result in immediate execution. Furthermore, any individual or species that provides you aid or shelter will face severe sanctions from this council. The banishment to the galactic edge was considered a death sentence by most species. The region beyond the spiral arms was largely unexplored, filled with cosmic phenomena that could destroy ships and populated by unknown dangers. It was where the council sent those they wanted to forget about forever. As the council guards moved to escort her away, Zara caught sight of a figure in the observation gallery that made her freeze. Captain Marcus Chun of the Terran Federation sat among the newer member species, his dark eyes fixed on the proceedings with an intensity that seemed out of place. Humans had only recently been admitted to the council, their aggressive nature and stubborn independence making them controversial additions to galactic civilization. Their eyes met for just a moment across the vast chamber. Something passed between them, not pity which she had expected, but recognition. Perhaps even understanding. The guards dragged her away before she could process what she had seen, leading her through corridors filled with species from across the galaxy. None would meet her eyes. To them, she was already dead. The transport ship that would carry her to her exile was little more than a cargo container with basic life support. The journey to the galactic edge would take several weeks, giving her time to contemplate her fate. As the ship launched from the council station, Zara pressed her face to the small porthole and watched as the lights of civilization disappeared behind her. She had survived the laboratories, escaped the hunters, and endured a trial that was nothing more than theater. But even she was not sure she could survive what lay ahead in the darkness beyond the galaxy's edge. The weeks passed slowly in the cramped transport. Her only companion was the automated voice that provided meal schedules and transit updates. The food was basic nutrition paste, designed to keep her alive for the journey, but nothing more. The council wanted to ensure she reached her exile destination, but they had no interest in making the trip comfortable. As they traveled further from the galactic core, space itself seemed to change around them. The familiar constellations disappeared, replaced by strange nebulae and cosmic formations that seemed to pulse with their own internal light. Zara found herself pressing against the porthole more frequently, fascinated despite her circumstances by the alien beauty of the unexplored regions. It was during the final week of the journey that the transport proximity alarms began to sound. Zara felt her heart rate increase as the ship shuddered to a stop. Through the porthole, she could see nothing but empty space, but the alarms continued their urgent warning. "Attention, prisoner," the automated voice announced. "Transit has been interrupted due to unidentified vessel approach. Remain in designated containment area." Zara laughed bitterly. Where exactly did they think she could go? She was locked in a cell aboard a ship in the middle of nowhere. The sound of docking clamps engaging echoed through the transport, followed by the hiss of airlocks connecting. Someone was boarding the ship. Zara pressed her ear to the cell door, trying to make sense of the sounds coming from the main compartment. Heavy footsteps approached her cell, different from the light tread of the automated systems she had grown accustomed to. The door's electronic lock disengaged with a soft chime, and the portal slid open to reveal a figure in military-grade environmental armor. The helmet retracted with a soft hiss, revealing the face she had seen in the council chambers. Captain Marcus Chun looked older up close, with lines around his eyes that spoke of someone who had seen too much violence. But his expression was calm, almost gentle. "Zara, 7?" he asked, though they both knew he already had the answer. She nodded, too surprised to speak. No one had ever come to rescue her before. No one had ever cared enough to try. "My name is Marcus Chun, Terran Federation Navy. I'm here to offer you a choice." He stepped back from the doorway, giving her space. "You can continue on to your exile, or you can come with me. But I need you to understand, if you choose to come, there's no going back. The Council will consider you dead, and it needs to stay that way." Zara stared at him for a long moment, searching his face for any sign of deception. "Why?" she finally asked. "Why would you risk Council sanctions for someone like me?" Marcus's expression hardened slightly. "Because I've read the files on what they did to you and the others at that research facility. Because I know what it's like to be judged for things you can't control. And because sometimes the right thing to do and the legal thing to do are not the same thing." He gestured toward the open doorway. "The choice is yours. But I need an answer now. My ship's stealth systems won't hide us for much longer." Zara looked around the cramped cell that had been her prison for weeks, then back at the human officer who had somehow tracked her transport across half the galaxy. She thought about her brother, about the other test subjects who had died in the laboratories, about a galaxy that saw her as nothing more than a genetic mistake. "What happens if I come with you?" she asked. "You disappear," Marcus replied simply. "Officially, you die in exile as the Council intended. Unofficially, you get a new identity and a chance to start over somewhere they'll never find you. It won't be easy, and it won't be safe, but it will be your choice to make." For the first time in longer than she could remember, Zara smiled. Then, let's go. As they made their way through the transport toward Marcus's ship, Zara caught sight of the vessel through a porthole. It was sleek and predatory-looking, clearly designed for speed and stealth rather than comfort. Human military engineering at its finest. "What's her name?" Zara asked as they reached the airlock. "The Defiance," Marcus replied, helping her across the connecting bridge. Seemed appropriate. Behind them, the automated transport continued on its programmed course toward the galactic edge, carrying an empty cell and a prisoner transport record that would show Zura 7 as delivered and released as ordered. Officially, she was now dead to the galaxy. But as the Defiance slipped away into the darkness between stars, Zara felt more alive than she had in years. 3 months later, Zara stood on the observation deck of the mining station Kepler 7, watching the sunrise paint the asteroid field in shades of gold and crimson. The new identity Marcus had arranged for her was holding up well. Zara Voss, freelance engineer with a specialty in exotic propulsion systems. Her mixed heritage was explained away as the result of cosmetic body modification, a fashion trend among some of the Outer Rim colonies. "The morning shift change always puts on quite a show," came a familiar voice behind her. Zara turned to find Marcus approaching with 2 cups of what passed for coffee in this part of space. He had taken a position as head of security for the mining operation, using his military background to land a job that kept him close enough to monitor her situation. "I never got to see sunrises when I was—" She paused, still reluctant to speak about her past even with him. "Before. The research facility was underground," Marcus asked gently, handing her one of the cups. Zara nodded, taking a sip of the bitter liquid. 17 levels below the surface of Proxima 9. They said natural light interfered with some of the equipment. She was quiet for a moment. "I think they just didn't want us to remember what we were missing." Over the past 3 months, their relationship had developed into something neither of them had expected. What began as a rescue mission had become something deeper, a friendship built on shared experiences of being outsiders in a galaxy that didn't quite know what to make of them. Marcus had told her about Earth's rocky introduction to galactic politics, how humanity's tendency toward independence and creative problem-solving had made them controversial additions to the Galactic Council. Many species viewed humans as dangerously unpredictable, capable of both remarkable compassion and terrifying violence. "I've been thinking about what you said," Zara said, still watching the slowly rotating asteroids. "About making my own choices." "What about it?" "I want to do more than just hide. There are others out there, other mixed heritage individuals being held in research facilities, other outcasts being persecuted for genetic crimes they never committed. I want to help them." Marcus studied her profile, noting the determination in her voice. "That's not going to be easy. We're safe. The Council has long memories and longer reach." "I know." Zara turned to face him fully. "But I also know that running and hiding isn't really living. It's just a slower form of dying." Before Marcus could respond, his communication device chimed with an urgent priority message. His expression darkened as he read the contents. "What is it?" Zara asked, recognizing the look of someone receiving bad news. "Intelligence report from one of my contacts in the Federation. They're expanding the genetic research program. 3 new facilities are being established in the Vegas sector, and they're actively hunting for test subjects." Marcus met her eyes. Mixed heritage individuals are specifically mentioned as priority targets. Zara felt her blood run cold. The same experiments that had killed her brother were being expanded, industrialized. Somewhere in the galaxy, children were being taken from their families to become test subjects in the name of scientific advancement. "Where in the Vegas sector?" she asked quietly. "Zara, no. I know what you're thinking, and it's suicide. These aren't the same small-scale operations you escaped from. These are fully militarized research installations with Council backing. Then, they won't expect someone like me to come looking for them." Zara's voice carried a steel that Marcus hadn't heard before. "Marcus, I appreciate everything you've done for me. You gave me my life back. But I can't use that life to hide while others suffer what I suffered. Marcus was quiet for a long moment, weighing his options. Finally, he activated his communication device and began typing a message. "What are you doing?" Zara asked, calling in some favors. "If you're determined to do this, you're not doing it alone." The next few weeks passed in a blur of preparation and planning. Marcus's contacts in the Terran Federation proved more extensive than Zara had imagined. Within days, they had detailed intelligence on the 3 new research facilities, including security protocols, staff schedules, and most importantly, the number and location of prisoners being held. The first facility, located on the mining world Vega 3, held 12 individuals ranging in age from 8 to 34. The second, hidden within an asteroid field, contained laboratory equipment designed for genetic manipulation on a scale that made Zara's previous experiences seem minor by comparison. The third was the most heavily defended, but also held the largest number of prisoners, nearly 50 mixed heritage individuals from across the galaxy. "This isn't a rescue mission anymore," Marcus explained as they reviewed the intelligence reports aboard his ship. "This is a war against the systematic persecution of genetic minorities. Once we hit the first facility, they'll know someone is coming for the others." Zara nodded, studying the tactical displays with growing determination. "Then we hit them fast and hard before they can relocate the prisoners or increase security." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "This is your crusade, but you don't have to carry it alone. I thought the Federation couldn't officially support action against Council facilities," Zara pointed out. Marcus smiled grimly. "Officially, we can't. Unofficially, there are a lot of people in the Federation who don't like what they're seeing from the Council's genetic research programs. People who remember when humanity was on the outside, looking in. The assault on the first facility came at dawn on Vega 3. The Defiance, now accompanied by 2 other vessels crewed by Federation volunteers, dropped out of hyperspace directly above the research complex. The facility's automated defenses, designed to prevent escape rather than invasion, were quickly overwhelmed by coordinated strikes from the 3 ships. Zara led the ground assault team personally, her mixed heritage allowing her to interface with both the Zarathi and Korean security systems in ways the original designers had never anticipated. Doors that should have remained sealed opened at her touch, while force fields designed to contain genetic anomalies recognized her as authorized personnel. The prisoners they found in the facility's lower levels were in various stages of the research process. Some were recent arrivals, still showing signs of the normal lives they had been torn away from. Others bore the physical and psychological scars of extended experimentation. "How many?" Marcus asked as Zara emerged from the detention area. 11, she replied, her voice tight with controlled anger. "We lost 1 yesterday, according to the logs. An 8-year-old Talarian-Carinian hybrid. The researchers noted that the subject's genetic structure was insufficient for extended study." Marcus placed a hand on her shoulder. "We can't save the ones who are already gone, but we can make sure this doesn't happen to anyone else." The evacuation of the prisoners took longer than planned. Many were too weak to walk unassisted, while others were so traumatized by their captivity that they initially refused to trust their rescuers. It was only when Zara rolled up her sleeves to show her own mixed heritage markings that some of them began to believe rescue was real. As the last transport cleared the facility, Marcus activated the charges they had placed throughout the complex. The research center that had caused so much suffering disappeared in a series of controlled explosions, taking with it years of experimental data and irreplaceable equipment. "One down," Zara said, watching the flames through the Defiance's viewports. 2 to go, Marcus agreed. "But they'll be ready for us now." The second facility proved to be exactly what their intelligence had suggested, a nightmare of genetic manipulation hidden within an asteroid field that provided natural camouflage for most scanning systems. The automated laboratories they discovered were designed to perform experiments without direct supervision, allowing researchers to test genetic combinations that would have been impossible with living subjects. More disturbing were the records they found detailing plans for large-scale genetic modification of entire populations. The Council's genetic research program wasn't just about understanding mixed heritage individuals. It was about engineering the genetic future of galactic civilization according to their vision of racial purity. They're not just trying to understand us, Zara said as she reviewed the data files they had recovered. They're trying to figure out how to prevent us from existing in the first place. The destruction of the second facility sent shockwaves through the galactic scientific community. The genetic research program had been operating under a veil of legitimacy, claiming to pursue knowledge for the betterment of all species. The evidence Zara and Marcus had uncovered painted a very different picture. But it was the third facility that would prove to be their greatest challenge. Located on the heavily defended world of Rigel 4, the complex was protected by a full Council military garrison and surrounded by orbital defense platforms that could destroy capital ships. "We need a different approach," Marcus said as they studied the tactical situation from their hidden base in the outer system. "A direct assault on this place would be suicide, even with Federation support." Zara was quiet for a long moment, studying the defensive positions surrounding the facility. "What if we don't assault it?" she finally said. "What if we get invited in?" Marcus looked at her sharply. "What do you mean?" "I mean, the one thing they want more than anything else is to get their hands on me. The hybrid who escaped, who's been causing them so much trouble." Zara's smile was predatory. "What if we give them exactly what they want?" The plan that took shape over the next few days was audacious to the point of insanity. Zara would surrender herself to Council forces, allowing them to transport her to the research facility on Rigel 4. Once inside, she would disable the facility's defenses from within, allowing Marcus and his team to extract not just the prisoners, but Zara herself. This could work, Marcus admitted grudgingly as they finalized the details. But if something goes wrong, if they detect the deception, then I'll be back where I started, Zara replied. Except this time, I won't be alone. As she prepared for what might be her final mission, Zara reflected on how much had changed since that day in the council chambers when she had been sentenced to exile. She was no longer the frightened girl who had escaped from Proxima 9. She was something new, a symbol of resistance against genetic oppression, and proof that the council's vision of racial purity was not just wrong, but impossible to achieve. The galaxy had tried to make her disappear, to erase her, and others like her from existence. Instead, she had become something they feared even more, a voice for the voiceless, and a reminder that some things were worth fighting for, no matter the cost. The surrender was staged in the neutral space near the Rigel system, where Council patrol ships maintained a constant presence. Zara's modified transport, designed to look like a failing smuggler's vessel, drifted helplessly as Council forces surrounded it. To the scanning equipment of the patrol ships, it appeared that the notorious genetic fugitive had finally been cornered after months of running. Unidentified vessel. This is Council Enforcement Ship Harmony. You are ordered to power down all systems and prepare to be boarded, came the transmission from the lead patrol ship. Zara activated the transport's communication system, making sure her voice carried the exhaustion she didn't have to fake. "This is Zara 7. My ship is damaged, and I'm running out of life support. I surrender." The silence that followed lasted nearly a full minute before the reply came. "Confirm identity. You are the genetic anomaly designated Zara 7, wanted for crimes against the Galactic Council." "Yes." The word felt strange in her mouth. After months of freedom, admitting to the identity she had tried so hard to leave behind required more courage than she had expected. "I'm tired of running. I want to turn myself in." Within hours, she found herself in the detention center of the Council's most secure research facility on Rigel 4. The complex was even more imposing from the inside than their intelligence had suggested. Miles of corridors stretched in every direction, filled with laboratories, holding cells, and security checkpoints that required genetic identification to pass. Dr. Valenkorsk, the facility's chief researcher, was a Zarathi purist who viewed genetic mixing as a disease to be cured. He examined Zara like a specimen under glass, making notes on a data tablet as he studied her physical characteristics. "Fascinating," he murmured, circling around the restraint chair where Zara was secured. The combination of Zarathi and Corian genetic markers has produced some truly unique adaptations. Your bone density is 30% higher than baseline for either species, while your neural activity shows patterns we've never documented. Zara said nothing, focusing instead on the facility's layout. The holding area was 3 levels underground, surrounded by laboratories where she could hear the sounds of ongoing experiments. Somewhere in this complex were nearly 50 prisoners, and she needed to find them before Marcus launched his rescue operation. "You destroyed 2 of our research facilities," Dr. Corse continued, his tone conversational. "The data loss was considerable, but not irreplaceable. However, the specimens you helped escape represent years of carefully curated genetic diversity. That loss is much harder to forgive." Specimens. Zara couldn't keep the anger from her voice. They were people. Children, most of them. They were genetic anomalies, just as you are. Their existence represents a threat to the natural order of galactic civilization. Left unchecked, genetic mixing will eventually lead to the collapse of species identity altogether. Dr. Korsk moved to a control panel, beginning to input commands. Fortunately, our research is close to producing a preventive solution. The restraints around Zara's wrists hummed with energy, sending waves of paralysis through her nervous system. But the dampening field was designed for normal Zarathi or Corian physiology. Her hybrid nature meant the field's frequency was slightly off, leaving her more mobility than her captors realized. "What kind of solution?" she asked, buying time while testing the limits of her movement. "A genetic virus delivered through the food and water supply of mixed colonies. It will target the specific gene combinations that allow cross-species breeding, rendering them sterile without affecting pureblood populations." Dr. Korsk's tone carried the satisfaction of someone describing a particularly elegant piece of engineering. "Within 50 years, genetic anomalies like yourself will be extinct." Zara felt her blood run cold. The scope of what he was describing was genocide on a galactic scale. Millions of mixed heritage individuals across thousands of worlds would be affected. Entire family lines would simply end, not through violence, but through the slow extinction of their ability to reproduce. "The testing phase begins tomorrow," Dr. Korse continued. "You'll be the primary test subject, given your unique genetic combination. We expect the process to take several weeks, assuming you survive the initial exposure." As Dr. Korsk left the laboratory, Zara began working on her restraints in earnest. The energy dampeners were powerful, but they relied on continuous neural feedback to maintain their lock on her nervous system. Her mixed heritage had given her brain patterns that didn't quite match either of her parent species, creating small gaps in the field's coverage. It took her 3 hours to work free of the primary restraints. Another 2 hours were needed to bypass the laboratory security systems, using her Zarathi genetic markers to convince the sensors she was authorized personnel. By the time the facility's alarms began to sound, she was already moving through the lower levels toward the prisoner holding areas. The first group of prisoners she found were recently arrived, mostly children taken from outer rim colonies where mixed families were more common. Many showed signs of fear and confusion, while others appeared to be in shock from their sudden separation from their families. "Who are you?" asked a young Tellurian human hybrid, backing away as Zara approached his cell. "My name is Zara," she replied, working quickly to override the cell's locking mechanism. "I'm here to get you out of this place. Are you really going to help us?" The voice came from an older prisoner, a Corian Altarian female who looked like she had been in the facility for months. "All of us," Zara confirmed, opening another cell door. "But we need to move fast. My friends are coming, but they can't get through the facility's defenses until I disable them." Leading a group of 47 prisoners through a heavily secured research facility while avoiding patrols and automated security systems was like trying to solve a 3-dimensional puzzle while running a marathon. Many of the prisoners were weak from their captivity, while others were too young to fully understand what was happening. But Zara's mixed heritage proved to be an advantage in ways the facility's designers had never anticipated. Her Zarathi genetics allowed her to interface with the crystalline-based security systems, while her Korean neural patterns gave her access to the bio-locked areas designed to contain mixed heritage prisoners. The main defense control center was located at the facility's core, surrounded by multiple layers of security that required genetic verification, neural scanning, and biometric confirmation. Under normal circumstances, it would have taken hours to breach even with the proper clearances. Zara accomplished it in 12 minutes. The facility's defensive systems were more sophisticated than anything she had encountered before. Orbital platforms, energy shields, automated weapon systems, and communication arrays were all controlled from the central hub. Shutting them down completely would take too long and might trigger fail-safes that could kill the prisoners. Instead, she did something more elegant. Using her access to the facility's genetic database, she reclassified every mixed heritage individual in the complex as authorized research personnel, giving them the highest level of security clearance in the facility system. Then, she triggered a facility-wide evacuation order, citing a containment breach in the Chemical Weapons Division. The response was immediate and chaotic. Security personnel began evacuating the complex's upper levels while automated systems unlocked doors throughout the facility to allow rapid egress. Emergency transportation was activated, with shuttlecraft launching from the facility's docking bays to carry evacuating personnel to safety. Marcus's assault team arrived just as Zara was leading the last group of prisoners toward the main hangar bay. The Defiance and her escort ships descended through the facility's deactivated defensive grid like vengeful angels, their weapons trained on the few remaining security positions. Zara, Marcus's voice came through her stolen communication device as his team secured the hangar. "Are you all right?" "Better than all right," she replied, watching as the rescued prisoners were helped aboard the waiting transport ships. "I'm free." But their escape was interrupted by the arrival of Dr. Korsk and a squad of heavily armed guards in the hangar's main entrance. The researcher's face was twisted with rage as he surveyed the scene of his life's work being systematically dismantled. "You have no idea what you've done," he snarled, raising a weapon that hummed with deadly energy. "These specimens represent the key to preserving racial purity across the galaxy. Without our research, genetic contamination will spread until every species is nothing but a mongrel hybrid." "That's exactly what I'm hoping for," Zara replied calmly. "A galaxy where people are judged by their actions, not their genetics." Dr. Korsk's weapon discharged, but Zara was already moving, her hybrid reflexes allowing her to dodge the energy blast while closing the distance between them. The fight that followed was brief but decisive. The researcher had spent his life studying genetic anomalies from a distance, but he had never faced one in combat. As Dr. Korsk fell unconscious, Zara picked up his data tablet and began copying the files it contained. The genetic virus he had described was real, and the research was further advanced than she had feared. But the files also contained something else, a complete database of every mixed heritage individual the Council had identified across the galaxy. "We need to go," Marcus said, helping her toward the waiting ships as more Council reinforcements began arriving from the upper levels. "The orbital defenses are coming back online." As the rescue fleet cleared Rigel 4's atmosphere, Zara stood on the Defiance's bridge watching the research facility burn. Explosions bloomed across its surface as the charges Marcus's team had placed detonated, destroying equipment and data that represented decades of work. "What now?" Marcus asked, joining her at the viewport. Zara held up the data tablet she had taken from Dr. Korsk. "Now we use their own information against them. This database contains the location of every mixed heritage individual they've identified. We're going to find them before the Council does, and we're going to give them a choice." "What kind of choice?" "To hide, or to stand up and be counted. To show the galaxy that genetic diversity isn't a disease to be cured. It's the future of galactic civilization." Over the following months, the rescue of the Rigel 4 prisoners became a rallying point for mixed heritage individuals across the galaxy. Many who had lived in hiding came forward to share their stories, while others began forming support networks in systems far from Council oversight. Zara herself became a symbol of something the Council had never expected: organized resistance to their policies of genetic purity. The girl who had been sentenced to exile for her mixed heritage was now the leader of a movement that spanned hundreds of worlds. The Galactic Council responded predictably, classifying the Genetic Liberation Movement as a terrorist organization and placing bounties on its leaders. But their response only validated what Zara and her followers had been saying, that the Council's vision of civilization had no place for those who didn't fit their narrow definitions of genetic purity. Standing on the bridge of her new flagship, a captured Council cruiser renamed Liberation, Zara looked out at the fleet that had gathered around her. Dozens of ships from across the galaxy, crewed by beings of every conceivable genetic combination, united in their determination to create a better future. Status report: she called to her communications officer, a Tellarian human hybrid who had been rescued from the Vega 3 facility. 17 new colonies have declared independence from Council genetic monitoring, came the reply. The Terran Federation has formally recognized the Genetic Liberation Front as a legitimate government in exile, and we've received surrender requests from 3 more Council research facilities. Zara nodded, satisfied but not surprised. The galaxy was changing, and the change was accelerating. The Council's attempts to maintain genetic purity through force and fear were failing because they had underestimated the most human characteristic of all: the refusal to accept injustice, no matter how powerfully it was enforced. Marcus approached her position at the command console, carrying a data pad with the day's intelligence reports. The Council is calling for a vote on military action against the Liberation colonies. They're claiming we represent an existential threat to galactic civilization. They're right, Zara replied with a smile that would have terrified Dr. Korsk if he had seen it. We do represent an existential threat to their vision of civilization. We represent something they never accounted for: the possibility that their vision is wrong. Through the viewports of the Liberation, the stars beckoned with infinite possibility. Somewhere among those distant lights were worlds where genetic heritage mattered less than character, where children of mixed ancestry were celebrated rather than persecuted, where the future belonged to those brave enough to seize it. The girl who had once knelt in chains before the Galactic Council was gone, replaced by a leader who understood that sometimes the most powerful act of rebellion was simply refusing to disappear. The galaxy had tried to erase her and failed. Now it would learn what she had chosen to become instead: living proof that diversity was not weakness, but the greatest strength any civilization could possess.